Welcome, everybody, to another amazing podcast for the superb, sensational group that we all are a member of called Mindfulness and Positivity on Facebook. We're up to 20K members now. It's not just a group, it's a community of people who are out there trying to help other people to establish great positivity and goodness in your life, things that make us feel good. And so the podcasts are about that. So today we've got Adam Hart, who's a member of the group, who is a best-selling author with the book The Power of Food. He's also a health mentor. Food's always been one of my big issues, so we're going to bring him in now. For anyone who is new to the podcast, you can catch him on my YouTube channel, Christian Hoyle Catalyst for Change. If you have not subscribe to that channel, subscribe so you don't miss anything from now on. Add your comments if you've got anything else to say. If in the group, if you want to get someone interviewed, put it down in the group and we'll look to get them on. We just want to bring some positive, amazing people. But I'm going to bring you on now to Adam. Hi, Adam.
Hey, how you doing, Christian?
I'm all good. I'm just going to move this setting. Are we all good?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Where are you coming from, Adam? Because we don't know where you are.
I'm on the west coast of Canada, between Vancouver and Whistler, a town called Squamish.
Right. What's it called? Is it called? Is one of the islands called British something?
Well, there's Victoria Island, which is kind of like the main island just off the coast here.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm loving the backdrop of that room.
Yeah, well, I got a red theme going. I'm mindful of light. I like to manage my artificial light, and so that's part of what's going on here for sure.
It's quite funny because I've got I'm in a room with no windows. I've got two massive lights there, or else you can't see. It's so dark in here. So
yeah.
Well, what do you mean about? Because I see you got red glasses on. I've never seen that. Tell me about what you mean.
Well, these block the blue spectrum light from hitting the retina. And, most of what I do now is really, I try my best to hack into my own nervous system so that I'm not in fight or flight. I find that I vibrate in a much happier, healthier state when I have a deeper relationship to my nervous system. And artificial light is one of those things that is a massive disruptor of our nervous system function.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and most of us don't realize it, but
what's happening to me now with these two big lights? I've got like the lights sort of like this big, and they're just going
right. And you think about it, like you wake up in the morning, the first thing we do is either look at our phone or look at or turn on the lights. Yeah. We don't realize that the temperature of the light is usually an afternoon temperature. It's rated on what's called a Kelvin reading. And so the light bulbs, especially the LEDs, they're really rated to be an afternoon type of light. So when you wake up in the morning and you turn on your lights, all of a sudden your eyes see that light. It tells the body, hey, we're in the afternoon. We got to wake up. So it flushes you with a whole bunch of cortisol and adrenaline to wake you up. And your brain gets shut off because it's a fight or flight response, and you're working at a diminished capacity. So as simple as like the blockers really help.
It's funny you identified something, and then so I was doing the phone. I stopped taking my phone to bed now. So, but I do. So it's not technology. I take my iPad and I read books on my iPad. So I've got my iPad there and I have it on low, but I don't take my phone. I don't look at my phone when I first get up anymore. It's like one of my habits I've wanted to change because the amount of people that my partner does it every day. I'm lying in bed trying to wake myself up, trying to get into a good place. She immediately picks the phone up and starts on the phone.
Yeah. This all comes back to just your own vitality, right? It's not like these are things that we have to not do. But if we really connect to how we really want to feel every day, we can start to understand that there's things we're doing that we think are normal that impact your ability to feel as great as you want to feel. And that's your own personal choice. I just choose to feel as great as I can feel. So I've learned how to mitigate some of the things that are impacting my own way to feel as great as I want.
I totally agree with everything you said there. You're very good with words, I noticed that. And I can see why you've wrote a book that we'll get to in a little while. But yeah, I'm in totally agreement that I don't go on my phone because I started to look for reasons. Not that I ever got up feeling in a bad place, but I want to be in the best place I can be.
Yeah.
And even with all the good things that you do, you still sometimes don't quite get where you want to be with that.
Yeah, and it's not about being perfect either. Like I scroll on Facebook all the time, and get caught, but I'm able to pull back and notice what is this that it's, because immediately as soon as you get notifications, as soon as you start scrolling, you get this pleasure feeling, and that's mostly dopamine, which is it's a brain chemical energy, a neurotransmitter. So, for me, it's a matter of, okay, well, how can I create things in my life that give me a natural sense of pleasure, of dopamine, of adrenaline, cortisol, where I'm not being taken over by the cultural norms, like the lights and the gadgets, so that I have a more sustained, nourishing feeling every day. But I'm still guilty of my coping pleasures, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, coping pleasure. Yeah, that's totally true. Yeah, when you say it like that, I have absolutely.
Well, it's like the stress load of for so many of us right now is so high that you need to have some ways to cope.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for most of us, the ones that are the easiest are really detrimental to our longevity and our quality of life. And so it's, they are coping. And, again, it's a matter of finding the balance of, hey, how can I bring in some of these other ones that aren't,
It's a balance, isn't it? Getting it right. You hit mine. I never put it as a coping mechanism, but I'm going to nick that. I'm going to keep saying it so it stays in my brain so I actually remember things.
Yeah.
I walk my dog every morning. My coping mechanism for life, and I live in a beautiful place. I've looked at a couple of your things. You live in a mountainous region as well, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, we both live in nice places. I've noticed when you're out on your bike and stuff. It's sort of
so
we're
good.
Blessed.
It's the environment has a large part with your vitality. And if you're, I grew up in a city setting. I'm originally from Toronto, which is a pretty major city, and concrete jungle, and had very little connection to nature, and didn't realize how important nature was to my ability to think clean and clear and be vibrant. And the mountain setting for me is critical to my ability to be happy and healthy, and the way I raise my kids. I mean, it's so beautiful to be in the mountains with them.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Like, because we've got the mountains, and like I've started. Do you meditate?
I do not meditate. No.
So I don't meditate. I couldn't say, I'd be lying if I said, yeah, I meditate, because I've done it so many times, and it's something I want to do more, because I like to quieten my mind and I'm doing it in nature. But I see when I go up a mountain, or my dog walk as well. If I say my dog walk, I'm not in the mountains, but I go out for a walk. But a mountain walk is different to a dog walk. That when I go in the mountains, I might sometimes think, like, today I'm going on my own because I've got something to resolve. It's a coping mechanism. I've never thought what did you say about coping?
Yeah, coping mechanism. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. So it's a coping mechanism. But sometimes I find a mountain meditative, in a sense that when I'm on the way up and I think, right, I'm here to solve this. And the more I think about it, the less I'll solve it. And then what the mountain does, it stops me thinking about whatever it is I'm there to do. I get to the end of the walk and I think an answer comes, but I wasn't thinking about it the whole way. And it got it to me. And I see that as a meditative state for me. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely about flow states. Meditation is one example of a way to get yourself into a state of flow. I was never, I definitely have a history of anxiety. I was diagnosed ADHD when I was a child and medicated, and like there's a lot happening in relation to how we can connect to our own ability to create flow within us that doesn't require us having to sit down and meditate for 20 minutes as the only way to get there. I got very lucky. I discovered the entry into feeling a connection to my own vibration, my own vitality through rock climbing.
Ah, right. Interesting.
Right. Which is very, very similar to like when you go into the mountains for a walk. I mean, there was something that happened to me the first time I ever discovered rock climbing. Indoors was where I started, but it connected me to an internal feeling I had never felt before. And when I tapped into the feeling that it was giving me, which really was just a pure essence to being present.
Yes.
Connecting to movement, connecting to breath, and that became an addiction for me. You know, I didn't know any other way to get it. I didn't meditate back when I was very unhealthy. But
so when were you? When did you do that? When you
well,
talking
that
about
was in my. I was kind of hit a rock bottom moment at 25, 26 years old. I was pre-diabetic, overweight, depression, anxiety, food allergies, ADHD, all sorts of medications. And, you know, I didn't want to buy another gym membership. I had spent so much money on gym memberships and diets, and they always left me feeling really frustrated and guilty. And so I just got lucky. I stumbled into this indoor rock climbing gym in Toronto just as a way to try to get fit. And as soon as I started going up the wall, I knew right away, like I was in a panic mode for sure, because I was, you know, it was scary. But there was an internal connection to something that I didn't have an experience with before.
Yeah.
And really at the core of it was just peace.
Yeah.
And so that's what I wanted more of.
I would say, and I don't really like, I like scrambling. I love scrambling. But as soon as you start doing ropes, I hate the waiting around, and we're always in a group of 6. And I don't, and do you want, if I'm making excuses there. I've had a couple of ones where I'm having to fall back on the rope where we're doing big. I didn't like it. I didn't like I like a bit of fear, but what I've noticed is it's being in the moment. When you're rock climbing, you're being in the moment because you cannot think about anything else other than what you are dealing with. I went mountain biking in the mountains about 6 weeks. I see you do a bit of that.
Yeah.
So I'm biking on the mountain bike. You think of something else for a millisecond. You're coming off that bike nearly. A couple of times I started drifting off and doing what I do, thinking, whoa, and I was like holding on.
Yeah.
So I wasn't. So it's being in the moment and being present the whole time. Yeah. You cannot. It's like an escape from you. You know, I find that.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't realize, you know, the 70,000 plus thoughts we have a day, and and often how much they want to control your daily reactiveness. It's the primitive brain. It just wants to survive. So it uses our thoughts to pattern us into these ways of reacting to life, so that it creates more stress and more cortisol, more adrenaline, more coping pleasure things that create dopamine, like social media and alcohol. And so if we don't find ways to quiet the monkey mind, that I call it, that, you know, it's all that noise in the head. If we don't find a way to calm that down, we never realize we have a choice on another path of how to live. And it's usually a more vibrant one that has a lot more mental energy, less brain fog, more clarity, more focus, and just more fun.
So you like, every time you say something, I want to go off in a million different things. I'm supposed to be following this thing because I'm really interested in the food part, because especially with me, and I think the group will really want to know about the food. But I just want to flip to this because it's really manifestation. You're a follower?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, so this is what happened to me. So I'm big following manifestation ever since I found out. I read The Secret as my last book. I'd been reading for 18 years. Every book that was about The Secret, but never was written like it. And I wish I'd started on that earlier. I'm on with another one at the minute, but this is what happened to me last week. So I did a podcast last week with a guy called Toby Street and Basil Bolts. I'm in a group with them every Thursday. It's a man's group, and we do this session every Thursday. A bit of various different things. It's about men being vulnerable, men being honest, being part of a group of brothers. It's brilliant. Best thing ever.
Cool.
So before the podcast last week, I actually can't believe it, because this is manifestation, but not the positives of it. Before the podcast, they want to they're wanting to do their own things going forward, and they wanted to ask me some questions as a member of their group about other things they're setting up. And they asked me some questions. One of them is, what is it that frustrates you? And I say, to be honest, boys, not a lot of things frustrate me. I've got to a point in my life, I can deal with things as they come. That's what I've got a lot better. When things come, I can deal with them better by not being caught up always in the emotion of it. So brilliant. Answered that one. I feel quite good about myself. Next question. Christian, what keeps you awake at night? So I say, well, I'll be honest. If there's something on my mind, it doesn't keep me awake at night. I fall asleep always really well, but I'm always woke between 4 and 5. If there's something on my mind, I know about it. So anyway, I get off the podcast, open up an email, and it's off a solicitor about this legal thing I've got going on. It didn't just frustrate me, because she makes a challenge on this other person living in this house I've got. I'm so frustrated by it. Like, after saying that, go to bed, go to sleep that night, can't sleep, probably go to sleep. Right? And it made me think, When else have I told someone that I don't get frustrated? Then I got frustrated,
Mm.
and then I don't have a problem with sleep. And I just thought to myself, you've got to
Mm.
be careful what you say.
Yeah.
You know, I know that's totally not what we're on about, but I thought I'd throw it because it really threw me.
Well, because it's accurate. I mean, all language has vibration.
Yes.
Right? Whether it's something you verbally say or you're internally thinking, it has a vibration that's going to attract more of whatever the feeling is that it creates internally as a pattern. You're going to attract more of that feeling back. That's been my experience around attraction. Is it's not the outcome we're attracting, it's the feeling we're attracting. It took me a long time to figure that out. Like I've had a particular practice around manifestation for many years. And a lot of it, like the book, I attracted my book.
So when was your book? I'm glad you brought your book. When did you write your book?
It came out in 2013.
Okay.
And it was something that I truly desired and created a vision board around and did my daily practice around optimizing my energy to attract it. But I was very specific at wanting it to be a certain way. This is the trip up for what I consider for a lot of us who are into using our energy to attract things is we get caught in the outcome. The outcome becomes an addiction. It's it disrupts your ability to really feel fulfilled when you finally it presents itself and you're like, there it is. Wow, I got it. Okay. My pattern was, okay, I got it. What's next?
Yeah.
Right. And when I realized that it's not about the outcome, it's about the feeling. And if I can understand why I wanted the book or why I wanted whatever else I've attracted, if I can connect to the feeling that it brings, then I realize that's what I'm attracting more of, is that same feeling. And it all of a sudden it removes the need for it to be a certain way. And there was so much freedom in that and so much more fulfillment that started to show up in my life because of that slight shift in how I was using my energy. I don't know if that resonates.
Totally. Yeah, totally. So, do you know, it was interesting. It was me. I'd seen you in the group and you've always got a positive stance. I like it. And you're very good with words. And clearly that's why you wrote the book. Food's an interesting one because where I'm at the minute, I've had major food issues in my life. I've got this I'll tell you about because I don't know what I haven't read your book, so I can't say what it's about. I've got a very weird thing with one certain food, and I know that it's really, really. Do you know what? Like, so when I used to be with my kid's mum, she grew up with me. She knew all about it, so it was all normalized my weirdness. And she, you know, I'm nothing. I'm maybe 10% of what I once was. She went through the houses, right? But then I had to explain this particular weird thing that I do. Like, so I've had this thing when I was a kid. I ate nothing of any nutritional value because of social circumstances in my life. So I ate loads of chocolate, chips and beans was my main meal. Didn't eat any fruit, didn't eat any veg ever. You know, I don't even know about drinking water. Got my stepdad came along, tried to do the right thing, give me proper meals with onions in. So I remember having these big caramelized onions in this meal and him making me eat it. And I'm at the table. I can't do it. I used to go, if you don't eat, you go to bed. I've got to bed at 4:30, 5 a lot. And I've continued, right, this thing with onions, right? It's a lot better now where it used to be if you brought me a dish and it had onions in, I'm not going anywhere near it. I can get round it now. I won't eat them. But I have very strange effects with it. But what is the weirdest thing about it all? This is what makes it even though I can't even saying it. I feel weird saying it. I like baby pickled onions. And that because I started eating them before the phobia and they have to be this big. I don't know, but it's control like it's controlled a lot of my life. It has the onion thing. As strange as what it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would imagine it's like a lot of things. The trauma part of it is what triggers. I mean, I have English heritage. My dad's English. My English grandmother used to feed me beans on toast.
It's my favorite meal.
Right. But she would force me to eat it. Right. And so I didn't mind it. But, you know, after you're being forced into doing something, it kind of becomes, oh, my God, now I never want to see another one of those again.
Yeah. It is genuinely a big, massive British meal, you know that. It's like, it's like, kid comes round, he's fussy like me, beans on toast.
Right. Yeah. That's what I got.
So, I know of other people who get these things. Like, I know of other people who are a lot more severe with food things, and when you have to start realizing at some point your food that you eat, you need to put the right fuel in to get the effect out the end of it. So I've moved on. I eat fruit and vegetables and stuff. Maybe I could
good.
I could eat. I'm pretty good with. Pretty good at stuff like that. I could do better, but my onion thing is, and I know I'm not the only one with the onion thing. Some people it's mushrooms. They've picked a.
For sure. Yeah, and you would probably find that there are a lot of them are coming from a childhood experience that didn't go over so well, for sure. I mean, for me, I grew up very similar. Like I had a fast food upbringing, and it contributed to my ADHD. It contributed to when I eventually became overweight and pre-diabetic, and just having no real connection to the power of food and how food can be a medicine.
Yes.
You know, again, like in the way that rock climbing appeared as a savior piece for me, food also became that. Because as I got into the rock climbing, you know, that's where for me it became everything. I was like, okay, I'm going to try to pursue this as an occupation.
Oh, you're that serious with it?
Well, I was.
Right.
You know, this was I'm 48 now. So when I was 30, I started to train. I moved away from Toronto, moved out here to the mountains in British Columbia, and I was training to become a rock climbing guide.
Right. No way. Awesome.
And that's when I realized, you know, here I was still pre-diabetic and overweight and, you know, eating all the wrong foods. I realized, wow, if I'm going to try and be a rock climbing guide, I got to get my nutrition in order.
They're all
here.
Quite pretty, because I know a lot of rock climbers, massive, big forearms and really small, wiry things to be at a bit like what you are now by the looks of it.
Yeah, you got to be in shape, really.
Yeah, you got to be massively in shape.
Yeah, and I remember like one of the first guys I moved in with when I moved to a small little town. It was called Golden, BC, and I moved in with this guy, and he had all these glass jars in his cupboard in the kitchen. And that was so foreign to me. I was like, what are all these glass jars? They were filled with like different nuts and beans and seeds. And I looked at his glass jars and I was like, it looks like my grandmother's cupboard. And I was like, what is all this stuff? And so he started explaining all these different foods to me, and you know, and he knew a lot of the nutritional components of the food. So I was like, oh, wow, okay, I should probably try some of this. What's that? You know, he showed me like quinoa as an example, you know, which is a complete protein source. It's a grain, a pseudo grain that's a plant-based protein. And I was like, never even knew you can get protein from plants. So, you know, and as soon as I started to add those in, without eliminating the food that I was eating, because I really like junk food still, I said, okay, I'm not going to diet. I'm just going to add some of these other things in and see what they do for me. And the number one food at the time that really changed my life was hemp seeds.
Okay.
Right? Like hemp heart, same thing. And this little seed, all of a sudden, I was just adding it to my cereal in the morning. You know, I was still eating Frosted Flakes at the time, and you know, other junk food stuff. But I would add a tablespoon or two of the hemp seeds in, and then I would do it for lunch. I'd add in a tablespoon into my peanut butter and jam sandwich, and I would add it to dinner, a tablespoon, because I started to realize, wow, the nutritional value of this seed alone is making me feel better.
Okay.
All of a sudden, I was just from that one seed, I was like feeling fuller, longer, less sugar cravings, less food cravings. And then I realized also it was helping me with my strength and my endurance. And that's when I kind of... Are
you still doing that now?
Yeah.
Right. I don't understand. It's what you get. Just add a teaspoon of the hemp to your food, or just have the teaspoon.
You can do it either way. I mean, I have an addiction to sugar.
So do I.
Right. And it's still there, and I don't deny it. But one thing that I make sure that I do is I counteract the sugar with something of value. So if I love cookies. So if I still eat a bunch of cookies, I'll pound a tablespoon of hemp seeds with it.
Right. I've never had it. I remember hemp seed being a big thing. Probably 90s. Was it 90s? You saw it's like 90s.
I'm not sure. I mean,
it was in a lot of things. There was a lot of different things that were hemp seed, and it was like, like every food has its big media
its moment,
thing.
totally.
Yeah, as its moment. And I do remember the moment, but I've never. I'm thinking now I'm going to go get some help because where I work at the bottom of it, there's a shop that has everything possible like
Oh,
that.
great.
But I never go in it.
Well, you know, I mean, it's the one seed that is so easy to add, that gives you lots of good healthy fat, good healthy protein, so helps to stabilize your blood sugar. And I was pre-diabetic at the time. So I didn't realize that I could help stabilize my own sugar. I just figured, you know, at some point I'm going to be on insulin. That's what the doctors told me. And, you know, yeah, sure, I can change my whole diet and fix it. But I didn't realize just by adding something in, I could fix it.
Wow.
And that's really when I started to realize, and that's the book. The book is called The Power of Food.
Yeah.
You know, that's when I started to realize, well, wait a minute, there's power in food that I was never taught. And that took me on a whole journey where eventually I was teaching my family what I was learning around nutrition. And they said, you're really good at this stuff.
Yeah.
You should turn this into a business. And so that's when I left the pursuit of rock climbing as a career, and I started to actually do nutrition training.
Right. Okay.
And that took me on a whole other life path.
So I saw that you've got is it Clear? You've got some. What's it called?
Clear Impact. Yeah.
So what would anyone go to that for?
Well, so the website is clearimpact.io, and really where I went from was in 2005, I started to do corporate wellness training.
Okay.
And I was working mostly out here in Canada and going into companies and teaching them how to eat for more energy. And it really started to catch on, and was doing more nutrition. And so for 5 years, I was working with all sorts of different organizations around eating for more energy for their leadership, for their employees. In 2010, all of a sudden, some of the companies I was working with, they started asking me, Adam, do you do any trainings that are related to mental health? Because we're having a lot of employees who are suffering with depression and anxiety. And at the time, I was noticing that a lot of the employees I was working with were suffering from nervous system dysregulation. And when I pulled back for a moment and said, okay, well, what's going on here? Why, you know, I've been immersed in the employee culture for a long time. Why is there all of a sudden this weird energy going on for employees and their inability to manage daily stress? And when I started to go to the decision makers and say, listen, you should know that this is where it's coming from. There's one dominant reason why this is happening. And it was the rise of the smartphone.
Yeah. Oh God, that was then. Bloody hell. What's it like now? 10 years on. Wow.
And so I started doing resilience training for organizations because I had built up enough knowledge of my own around energy, understanding how to attract and understanding how to use nutrition was a catalyst to get me in. But then it became all around nervous system. How do you train your nervous system to live in a calm, parasympathetic, rest and digest state so that you have more choice over the thoughts you're thinking and less reaction to life, so that you have the ability to really go more in that flow state. And essentially Clear Impact is what that company was. And now what we do is just provide group coaching around how to optimize your daily vitality using your own energy to do it. Nutrition is one component. You know, it's one of the key areas, but it's not the only one.
Well, there's 20,000 members in the group now. And it, like Katie, when she first started, I did a podcast with Katie. I joined this group and I thought, this is wicked. Because I'm in lots of groups and none of them feel the same energy as what this feels. I feel like it's a community that people are there to, like, they're not there I'm not going to say moaning. They're not there just going on about the negatives in their life. They're trying to draw out the positives in it. And that's, I see, the bit of a difference. But if we look at all our negatives, we'll associate and find them. But we need to associate some positives that we're going to bring into our life. And I think that sounds absolutely perfect. Tell you what I like. So I've got a couple here. So these are from members. So I got one recently. It says, it was called Anna. She put, I joined recently and started meditating. For years, I've been struggling with anxiety and panic attacks. I decided I need to change my lifestyle and attitude. I love to just saying that, her attitude, because that's what it is, isn't it? That people need to understand your attitude has to change of how you're going forward about attracting the right energy in you. I saw that breathing was supposed to help, and it led me to try meditation, which for the last 4 weeks I've been doing in the morning. I have found and I have started to approach things slightly differently. And even though I haven't had a chance to try doing the things that cause panic yet, because we've been in lockdown, I am feeling more positive about the future and looking to continue meditation and gratitude long term. She's why I want to choose that is that you've identified it there, that it is we have to make things happen, and we have to make choices that make it happen. Like I talked about that Thursday thing. You do your coaching. It's like a coaching session. It's not based. It's more spirituality and more about achieving, going forward. There's a lot of entrepreneurs in the group and whatnot. But yeah, I like the coaching thing, and I think people in the group would like that kind of thing within it. How would they find it? How would they find yours?
Well, they can go on the website for sure, clearimpact.io. Okay. I think one of the most important things is to realize, excuse me, is that we have a lot of what I call cultural norms. We have a lot of things that are, that we, like I mentioned around the artificial light, that we consider normal, that disrupt your vibration because it disrupts your nervous system. So the key to being able to optimize your daily energy, it's not a matter of, okay, I got to start thinking more positive. I have to make better goals, and I have to get up and have a routine every day that I follow. That's the first thing we need to do. Is we need to understand that there's things we don't even recognize that are impacting your nervous system function, throwing it into fight or flight. If you don't clean those up, you're at a diminished capacity right away. Then once you clean those up, then you can really focus in on harnessing that calm, peaceful state to then work your vibration through. I find that what most folks, and especially like our clients, when they first come with us, they're really fixated on, I got to have this goal that I go after because there's something I'm lacking. I'm not the weight I want to be, or I'm not getting the sleep I want to. And that energy it's a tough energy to work from, because it's got to come back to just getting the system back on track. And then you can create anything. You can go after anything, but it's got to start from that internal system being online properly, the nervous system.
So let's just go with this one. This is another lady put. Hi, what exactly does someone do to kickstart their healing journey? What practices, activities, or just in general steps do you take? I feel like on a boat without a paddle at the minute. Yeah. What could you like? Because what I love is, I love that kind of message that's seeking your energy, like my energy or whoever in. And you notice in this group, like I've noticed you've made comments. You make long comments, and when I'm reading, I think they're just so well written. I've read a couple of your comments when I've commented on a post.
Yeah,
and people do that, and I love. People are doing it for no reason other to guide you and give you the energy. So what could we do to help her in her healing journey, if you were going to respond to that one?
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And, I have a deep empathy for that energy. It took me a long time to get to a position where I feel whole and complete myself, to where now I attract being in service more and more and more. And I think the more we are really feeling like we've got that strength, and it's not like a physical, I mean, it comes as physical too, but it's more of just a complete feeling of I feel really strong. And so now I have more to give others. And there is an overwhelming message of, and I think it's a real big myth around self-care, that it has to be hard and that it has to take a lot of time. These are two things that I know I used to buy into when it came to how unhealthy I was, and thinking about the journey of how to get to being healthy again. It's like, oh my God, that's going to be a lot. And the reality is it's not. I think the number one thing is to find a mentor, whether it's a coach, or whether it's a neighbor, whether it's a friend, somebody that you can look at and go, wow, they're living the way that I want to feel, the way that person makes me feel.
Yeah.
right? And then declutter the noise, because there's so much. There's like 4,000 different marketing things coming at us every day for different things. And once you're in an algorithm of some kind, you're kind of force fed. So it's really find that one or two mentors that really resonate with you, that you can say, okay, I'm gonna follow that pathway. I think the second thing too is recognizing that you have the ability to be what you want and feel the way you want to feel in this moment right now. It cannot exist in the past. And it can't exist in the future, because so it has to be something that you can create in this moment now.
Right now.
Right? And then you begin to ignite that internal flame of how you want to feel and be in this moment. And then just start to build little small practices every day that allow you to stay connected to the feeling. Right? And then that just kind of, and as you know, I know, and a lot of people in the group know, you just start to attract more and more chances to feel that way. But if you're not clear on how you want to feel, your vibration is going to be going all over the place. So it's really the clarity on how you want to feel is a key step to the process.
I just remembered now that it's I always hide my phone. Oh no, it's that I hide my phone because I'm addicted to my phone, so I come up with ways to get away. But I've just thought it was my son lives with someone who he works with, and it was their 30th at the weekend. And if someone, it's funny, isn't it? When someone turns a 20 or a 30 or a 40, some reason we met as human beings, we see it as slightly different birthday, don't we? When it happens to you, like I was 3 years ago, and it was going to be a massive thing, and it isn't, is it? No. The only massive thing is the creation that we build up in our thoughts about it. But then other people do it, so it's like like we do it like it was his 30th. So I sent him, because he's very cool guy. I couldn't ask for any, and I wrote that to him. I couldn't ask for someone better for my son to be watching, to grow up around, to be. So I sent him in a message and my advice. So my advice, and I'll say it now what it was. I said, so I'd sent him a message about how kind he was, happy birthday, great to my son. I said, my advice for the next decade, and it's just pretty much what we said. Always think in the moment. The past and the future are a result of the decisions we make in the moment, and right here, right now is a time to enjoy. Not in a week, or when you earn more, or when you go on holiday, or when you meet the right woman. Max, it's right here, right now. Enjoy everything now. Everything in life is temporary and always comes good if we allow it to happen. Life basically is a reflection of what we think, and I think your life's going to explode over the next decade.
Love it.
And I thought when you said that, I do like, he's receptive. You can't say that to everyone, but I like the group that Katie's come up with. And Katie, you'll have seen the message of Katie at the beginning of it, won't you? Because she does that nice message where you get to feel a bit of her energy, you know, because you've probably never spoke to Katie, have you? No. So Katie, you when you join the group, you get this, you come in and you get a message, and that's your first bit of her energy. And this woman is pretty special because I speak to her now. She lives in the UK, and I got her on the podcast. And then from then we've exploded like it was a universal gateway for her and I to meet. And ever since then, we've sort of been tunneling together. We came up with the podcast for the group because I'd spotted you. It was me who spotted you. She spotted, she'll go, I've seen this one. And she's so excited. I think he's going to come on. And I went, I've got Adam coming on Monday, you know. And every one of us has got a different dimension to add to it. But if we're all on the same journey and looking for that energy and realizing, you said something before, not thinking we have a burden of the things that are around us, not burdening. Life can be a burden to some people, can't it? They can get burdened with everything. Do you know what I mean? They can.
Well, the perception of it might be that,
Yes, that's what I mean. The perception,
yeah.
But rather, life's a pretty amazing, wonderful creation. That's kind of, there's a very famous said, life is a bitch, but always ends too soon. And I think them too. You know, I think when he meant life can be a bitch.
Yeah.
And it will be sometimes, even no matter how much good energy you spend out, you will get hit by just life itself, won't you? You can do all the things on yourself, but then life can catch up on us all, you know?
Yeah. That's why it's so important to try and surround yourself with others who can help lift you up. You know, I think right now, especially with the pandemic, so many folks are, you know, isolated and don't have a community around them. And if they have a partner who doesn't see eye to eye with them, it could feel, you know, really destitute. And, you know, more that you can find groups like this one and others who help to lift you up. It's so important now. We need a tribe around us in order to be able to thrive. I used to do all the one-on-one coaching and realize that it's nice, but group experiences are so critical right now for all
I
of us
agree.
to feel like we can thrive together, for sure.
I'm in 2 groups, and you've just hit one of them, and they're both from. I'm in the group that I told you about them, but I'm also in a tribe, but more entrepreneurial kind of tribe. It's less about spiritual energy and stuff. It's more about dealing with being an entrepreneur, which is a
Sure.
whole host of things, as you know yourself. It's a whole mindset test the whole time, and so it's working from a different angle. So the two things are totally separate. One group where we talk about what we're going to achieve and we're going to do and we're going to make things happen and people support. The other one is just be as honest as you can about what's going on. I'll ask you a question, just say be honest, and you let it all out.
Yeah.
And then brothers in the room with you share it and give you some positive feedback. It's great. I know.
It is. It's so powerful. Like the amount of emotion that you can move through when you're surrounded with support, not people pointing fingers, which is what a lot of what the internet does is just point. It's like you need to have people that you can be completely open and honest with. And hopefully they have enough empathy for themselves that they can hold space for you to let out whatever that is. It could be just one session with a group that really holds that kind of space can be transformative.
I agree. So we all call each other brothers. Your group, how many's in your group?
Well, this is the group coaching program. I do have a Facebook group.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and that's a self-care community called Clear Impact Self-Care Community. I think in there's about 1,300 or so.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the actual coaching program is something different.
Right, and you do the coaching in programs for so many numbers. And what do you run it in like weeks, like a 10-weeker or?
Well, it's a 3-month commitment.
Right.
The program is actually called Practice Your Perfect Life. This is the idea of being able to get your energy on track so that you're vibrating in a way that you can live that perfect life right now, not something that you have to go after. And that, I've been running that for 2 years now. And, so it's never a start point. People coming in, they're in the first week. Other folks have been in there for 3 months plus. They just love being part of the community and being in contribution to each other. And so it's
who's in it then? What's your kind of person that you end up? And what are the reasons that they come?
Well, I'm a dad, right? So and so we have a lot of parents, a lot of folks who just want to really stay connected to how can I be the best role model for my kids in a way where stress isn't leading how we show up every day for each other as partners. So communication is much cleaner and clearer, but that all comes from your own internal vitality. And so, I love working with parents who really feel that they want to up their game around being that role model. That's a huge act of service for me. Is that?
Well, I'm that guy who had a kid first, and so I've got one that's 21, but then I went 7 years. Lucas is 4. 7 years. So I'm now. So when my Dylan was 14, like what Lucas is now, I was totally stressed with the whole thing of the whole parenting thing. I got caught up in every emotion. What I expected him to be the perfect person when I never was. The reason why I expected it because I wasn't, and I was like, it's ridiculous. I mean, to be honest, now in his job, he is the perfect person in his job. He's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But now he sees me with my other 14-year-old, and he's like, used to get in the mood with me about that, and I've just got, Luca is exactly the same, but I'm different.
Yeah.
And that's the bit. I can't change them. Well, I can. Obviously, as a parent, that's your job. But whenever they're going through these changes, I used to get so absorbed in it. And like you said, I used to be a lot more. This is 7 years ago. I used to be a lot more stressed as a person.
Yeah.
I had a lot more things going on. I don't think it was the things going on. It was the way I dealt with the things that were going on and the way I dealt with myself.
Yeah.
Like silly things, not giving yourself time in the morning, getting up 10 minutes before you're leaving. Silly little things that you can instantly work on. Like you were saying before, not everything takes loads of time.
No.
Get up a bit earlier.
Yeah.
Gives you loads of time.
Yeah, there's that another perception again around, especially around our health and self-care is again that it has to be so much. There's so many little things that you can add in that can combine together. I call them stack and biostacks. You're hacking into your own biology by stacking these little exercises that take maybe a minute to do, some of them. Yeah. That transform your vibration. And then, you for me, when I come into my room in the morning and I set my energy up. I walk out, my kids are there. You know, my kids now are 6 and 9 years old, so still quite young, but they've been one of my biggest trainers for being able to calm my nervous system down. You know, when they're screaming and yelling, noise for me is a sensitivity. So I've had to train myself to use my breath to relax my nervous system state. And then they see that and they feel your energy and they connect to that in a way where they get curious, or they just tap into it way differently than we do as parents. It's quite something.
They're learning from you. They learn, like,
totally.
I used to shout a lot. I used to shout a lot, and the only person who gets stressed out when you shout is the shouter. I used to once be a teacher, and I learned, like, I should have took the two with parenting, because when I started teaching, I used to shout, and after 3 months, and I was shouting, I just like this, a light bulb moment. I thought, how stressed am I now when I'm shouting?
Yeah.
They don't care. They want me to shout, and I just stopped it right there, right then. So early 20s, stopped it, but I was still a parent, and I was shouting like mad. So I wasn't doing it in my job, but then I was at home, and then with all that I've learned from Dylan, I've just sort of, I don't know, we're lucky. You see it in everyone who's had kids. You have one kid and you learn off the first kid. They say you learn off the first kid, the second kid. And I've got 3 kids, 5 in total with my partner.
Boy.
So I'm sort of like, each one I get a little bit better at, and just understanding me. I think it's not understanding your child, it's understanding you and what the power is that you give them. If you shout at a kid, guess what the kid will learn to do? Deal with things by shouting, deal with things by being stressed, deal with things in anxiety. I'm pushing them things on it when I'm going, don't be stressed, don't be anxious, but while I'm creating it by how I am with them, you know, not anymore, but they're past me. So
well, it becomes one of those pieces that when I create the energy around my kids of peace and calm, and they do it too, they create that for me. Sometimes I say, Daddy, let's just breathe. but I always get more hugs. Right? It's like the direct result is my son will come up and he'll just yell, Daddy, Daddy, and just hug and hug and hug. You know, if I'm frustrated and angry, I don't get those hugs.
Yeah.
And I love the hugs. I'm very affectionate that way.
They know they've picked up on your energy, and they've picked up that you're in that place, and you're sort of pushing them away, and and I think as well, when I look back at my old thing, I remember, like, when you got, like, I was walking the dog this morning on what, you know, I woke up today. Mondays are normally, I'm bouncing back to Monday. I'll be honest, I've got a few little work things on that are annoying. I knew I had to sort them. There's a few things going on behind closed doors of work life, like everyone has. So I thought, I'm going off to do my dog walk, because that's where I start to feel good. Walked to the bottom of the alley, and the woman who lives down there is doing the school run with her. She had an 18-month and a 5, and she was so stressed, you know, and I'm not saying she could work. She does work on a thing, but at that minute, whatever, she's late and she's got to get him in the car. One was kicking off, one was refusing to go, and that's when you really test it out, you know. So
yeah, that's where you need to have your toolbox, right? You got to have your solid stack of tools that really helps to calm the nervous system, and especially in the moment. You know, you got to have tools that work for you in the moment. Which meditation isn't one of those for me. It's like, if that's supposed to be the one that gets you to that state of flow more than any other, which is what a lot of work taught that. It's like, well, when I'm stuck in traffic or my kid's yelling and screaming, I need something that works right then and there.
Yeah.
And there's quite a few tools, but definitely our breath is the number one that we can use to do that.
It's funny, right? You say about, right. So, well, I don't meditate. I could say I've meditated, if that's 40 times in my life, but this is going to sound mad when I say this, because what you just said, and I sort of agree with you, but so how I got into meditation, there's a Buddhist temple near where I live in the lake. It's beautiful. You got this beautiful place. They do a daily meditation. You sit down and do it with them. So I'd done it 3 times. So this is when the time when I had Dylan, he was about 14, and I was like, things were going on. I had the 3 young kids, both of us with businesses. It was always a bit full on. I've got to the house and I'm absolutely on one. Like I'm probably an 11 out of 10. But I can't even remember what the reason was. I'm on one. I'm losing my thing. I've got to go and take one away for 45 minutes. So I go in the garage, and I used to have this chair. That's where I used to sit in the garage. And I just sat down. I never planned it. And I was so mad. Like I was mad. I don't really get that mad now. So I sit down. I just suddenly close my eyes, start going. And I didn't mean to do it, so I start doing it, right? So I was an 11 out of 10. I do that for about 10 minutes, and it's only ever happened once. I go from 11 out of 10 to a 0 out of 10. So I open my eyes and it is like someone had come up to me, gone, just passes all that stress, give it me in their hand, taking it away. And I was like, so really, this has happened to me. I should do it all the time, shouldn't I? This was about 8 years ago. I never, but that one time, I promise from my soul, it just, I remember being sat there thinking, what's just happened? Why? You don't normally go from, you might run it off or you might go for a walk and it'll slowly go down. Nothing just completely goes, not in an instant. So I don't, it's like, I don't know, that's me saying, I don't know what I'm getting out of that, really.
Well, you can train yourself to have that switch flip, right? You can train that in a way where when your fight or flight kicks in, you have a much deeper relationship to the response to stress, to where you have a choice. But you have to train that in you. You have to train your own nervous system to feel it and to notice the patterns in your own life. And when you do that, you start to realize that you have the ability to turn off the response. The number one way that I do that is a breath work that I call Hart flow.
Okay.
It's a 33-second nervous system reset breath work.
Can we do it now?
We can.
Yeah. You know what, the breathwork thing, I don't know a lot about it, but I've had a blast on my Calm app. So I'm willing to try. I'm up for being the best part of me, and I'll give anything a go.
I love it.
Within
I love
reason,
it.
obviously. But yeah, I want to.
Well, there's obviously hundreds and hundreds of different types of breath work. This one is one that I've been using because I discovered it through rock climbing. I'd be on the wall. I'd be high up on a cliff, like outdoors, like hundreds of feet up in the air. And I would go into a panic attack. Right? And you can't. You're not allowed.
It doesn't help you.
No, you're in trouble if that's what happens. And so, I have a history of panic and anxiety. So I use climbing to help train my nervous system. And so when I got up to really certain types of heights and exposures, when my nervous system would kick in and want to take over into this panic. And so I found myself many times, eyes closed, just put my face on the rock and just breathing and doing a certain type of breath work. And I didn't realize it until much later that there was a pattern to what I was doing around the breath. It was a 3 breath movement of in and out, in and out, in and out 3 times. And I every time I'd open up my eyes, I would feel calmer. I'd look around.
Do you mean just closing my eyes? Is it in through my nose? Is it any kind of breathing? What?
I'll share with you the steps in a moment.
Okay.
But I just want to share, like, what I realized from the breath work was when all of a sudden I'd open up my eyes and the panic would be gone and I would be calm. I'd have clear focus. I'd have my strength back. I'd look up at where I needed to go next. And all of a sudden it would just like a fluid movement. The state of flow would be back. And so I said to myself, well, what is this breath? There's something about this breath I'm doing. And I started to do the research, and that led me to discovering, I don't know if you've heard of Hart Math. There's Hart Math Institute. It's pretty popular. If anybody Googles it, you'll find it, Hart Math Institute. But it taught me about something called HRV, which is known as heart rate variability. And heart rate variability, really, my understanding is the ability to clean up the signal up the vagus nerve, right? The key nerve that connects from the gut to the heart, to the brain, that you can actually clean up the signal. So if it's erratic in relation to creating a stress response, you actually have the ability to shut that response down and send a cleaner signal up the vagus nerve to the frontal lobe of the brain.
Okay.
Which then keeps the brain on. Because when you're in fight or flight, it gets shut off.
Yeah.
Right? The frontal lobe, your executive function shuts off. So that's where brain fog comes in. You can't think clean or clear because you're in fight or flight. So the 33-second breath work is what I started to use in everyday moments. I was like, okay, if it's about the variability of my heart, if I can calm down and shift the variability, it actually cleans up the signal and resets the nervous system back into the calm state. And you can do it in 33 seconds.
I love
So,
it. I'm a bit obsessed by the number 33, you see. So as soon as you said 33 at the beginning, I felt like it was another universal gateway that was being sent for me. So I'm listening.
I mean, this is the entry for everybody that that goes into the coaching program and the training. I share it a lot in different groups that I'm in as well, because I think it's really important that we recognize that it doesn't need to be hours and hours and hours of work to help train ourselves back into alignment with our vibration. So the 33 seconds, how it works is essentially there's 5 key steps. The first one is you want to really be able to start to notice a moment of stress. That's an obvious one. So for me, it used to be when I was in my car in traffic, I would have road rage. So I started to use it in the car, or I'd be in a lineup at the grocery store and be frustrated because I got to wait in line. And, those things would rev me up without me noticing. But then I started to notice. And so the first thing is obviously notice a moment. Then if you can, you want to be able to close your eyes. It doesn't work if you're in traffic.
I'm going for it now.
Okay. Now, if you're in traffic, you don't do it, but otherwise, closing your eyes. It's a powerful thing.
Disclaimer there: if you're driving, don't do the eye shot.
No. Unless you pull over. So then, and closing the eyes, it just really connects you to your breath a little more powerfully. You're not distracted by visuals. The next piece is hand on the heart. So really feeling into the beat of your heart, connecting to how it's making you feel. And now comes the key part, which is the actual breath. And so what you're doing is you're doing a 4-second breath in, 7-second breath out. And you're doing it 3 times in a row for 33 seconds. No breaks in between. And the last piece, the 5th step, ideally is while you're doing the exhaling, you're thinking of what you're most grateful for.
I got a quick feeling of that. I'm not just saying it. When I felt bad when you said there was a 5th step because I'd already opened my eyes. But when I opened my eyes, I don't know. I felt something. I'll be using that. What I like is I've. Here we go again. Is this a universal thing? But I've just recently started thinking about the breathing. So on the Calm app, it does have that thing, the same as what you've just got me to do then, where you breathe as it's going round like that. You breathe and then exhale. I think that has a gap in it, and then they have a few different ones.
Totally.
I've tried that just last week, and then we've never met, and you're telling me about breathing.
Right? You're attracting lots of things. Now here, so let me share with you now the way that this evolved for me, and the way that all my clients are doing this is the vibration piece. So after you've got your nervous system in check and you've got this breath work, and this breath work is called heart flow. You're getting your heart to be in flow.
Yeah.
Then you craft your ideal vision. This is the practice your perfect life idea. You craft your vision for how you want to be in this moment right now. Using the right words, the right language, because if your vision is, I want to lose weight, you're in trouble because you're going to be attracting the vibration of what that energy is for you, which is about weight, and it's probably a negative. So you have to craft this with the right wording and the right language. And when you do that and you combine the two together, it's unbelievable how you start to feel immediately. It's not, and this isn't like, oh, so when do I get the results from this? Like you shared, you get it immediately.
I got like, I just like that, and got I will 100% know that I will do it. I'm quite blessed when I answered that. I don't want to. I feel scared what to answer as to what happened with Wessel and Toby when I said I don't get frustrated a lot. But I once did get. I wasn't angry and aggressive. I grew up with violence as a kid, and it went on. That's how that was my mechanism to deal with everything. I remember in my late teens, I'd be hitting doors and going through it. That all stopped in my early 20s, where I stopped hitting things, like other people that hit brick walls. I never hit a brick wall because although I was angry, I wasn't stupid.
Yeah.
My mates would hit brick walls and then break all the knuckles there, and you think, what did you think was going to happen? You hit a plasterboard, but you're all right with, you get the impact. But I used to be so mad, and I used to get the road rage, and I think the road rage, one of my books I was reading was saying, when you get this road rage, you don't know where they're going or where they've been, and you don't know their journey. So you're selfish, you're thinking to yourself what's going on. And often you road rage because you're in a rush. Who put you in a rush? They didn't. You did it to yourself. And it was starting to examine that. And, because I've been reading, I couldn't tell you what book that was, but I've constantly been on the self-development route. And it does bring great things, to your life. And so I'm blessed by not doing that. But there are times, I got it yesterday. I can't remember what it was about. I got one yesterday, and it's often other people, isn't it? Often other people bring stressful energy at times because maybe they're not managing themselves very well, and they take that out on you. And it's when you have to. But you highlighted, I always try and think, like what I said before, everything's temporary. Everything. The only thing that's not temporary is death, and Mother Nature takes over death. You don't have to worry about death because as soon as it's coming, your body will be aware of it and it'll just deal with it. So if that's our only worry, really, then the rest of it can just go. And I try and be in that moment, try and be there.
It's great because then you have the ability to serve those who need to also get to that place and feel what that feeling is, which is a lot of people. We're so good at looking at everybody else and putting it on others as to why I feel a certain way.
Yes.
But when you no longer have that as part of where your energy goes, the only energy you have to give is to allow others to feel the vibrancy that you have.
Yeah.
And it's amazing what you can create from that space.
And when you do that, when you start looking, you start finding like Katie, like the great example is how I met Katie in this, but I meet loads of people. I'm a connector. I connect all the time.
Love it.
Katie was we were right for each other. She's got this group. I think I joined it, had 15K members. They've done 5K in 5 weeks, and it's going to keep going up. But Katie's energy, she's gorgeous person. Do you know what I mean? There's something about her.
Yeah.
But ever since I've started thinking about the energy that I take in, transmit, I found that I've met so many like-minded people. And I think like you're saying about doing the group coaching call, I can see that, it brings in people together in the same, we're all, if everyone goes into it, we're looking for the same vision. Do you know what I mean? So we're going to help each other on our way for it. And that's what this group's about as well. I love it.
Right. And it becomes a big intention experiment. We're all combining our vibrations together to have a bigger impact. Which is what we all need more of right now is to, one, like we mentioned already, be part of something like this, but two, to get more folks on board with feeling this good because we only have this one moment to do it. So let's all vibrate the way we want to vibrate and help as many folks as we can to do the same.
So I don't want to ruin. I'm always reading. What are you reading at the minute? I know you'll be reading. So what you on with at the minute? What's your?
Well, I've been doing not so much self-help for a long time. What's my recent
one? That self-help's a very broad thing. I
know.
I just use that as it's very broad. Maybe a lot of it isn't that, but anything that's helping me is helping my help. So I call it that. So go on, what you on now? I'm interested.
Well, Empire of the Summer Moon. I think I just ordered it.
Empire of the Summer Moon. I
like
the title.
Yeah, it's I believe it's the history of the Comanche tribe, and how that transformed the United States and how the United States came to be, and so that's kind of the one that I'm interested in. What's the one that I recently read? Man, the funny thing is with my memory around books, as soon as I read them, they're gone.
Same.
Exactly. But I've read so many great books.
I remember the stuff that I want to remember.
Yeah.
Titles, authors. There's only one. Like I have a Bible that's the best. I have a Bible and I got my son to read it 3 times. It was what transformed me into me a long time ago. Is Dale Carnegie. So How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is for me one of the worst titles of what is the most best book ever written. I think the title it should be adapted slightly, but I remember that one. But so I'm reading The Greatest Secret in a minute.
Yeah.
So someone put me onto that. The other thing I'm doing Blink List. Have you heard of Blink List?
No.
So Blink List is because I was doing all my books on audio, listening to a full book, and I say a book's on for 7 hours, I might remember 25 minutes at the max. So Blink List is a synopsis of books. So it's got 4,000 books on. So I'm reading The Greatest Secret, but I've listened to the synopsis on Blink List twice now. So it gives you like 13 minutes of what the book's about. So every book that was done of these 4,000, I can quickly suss it. So if you mention that book now, I'll put it in. I've read the synopsis of what it is. So you don't get it all. You need to get more.
Yeah.
So I'm reading The Greatest Secret, and I think you'd like what it's saying. And I agree with it. I get a lot of what I think about the human body because in 2005, my mum died. So I watched someone be live and well and in 6 weeks die. And I saw my only ever dead body that I've seen. And I've said this before in the podcast, but what happened was my mum died. I thought I'll lie with her. I lied in the bed. I was there for 1 second. Whoa. Not that I thought it was weird. I just knew that she wasn't there. That was just a vessel. So what they talk about in this book is that once you start to understand we are a vessel, and often people go, who am I? Because everyone, like, who I think I am is not all the people who've made up their own judgment of me. As soon as I work with someone, Stacey's made up a judgment of who I am, more than normal. I go outside and, you go, hi. That person you say hi to, you never spoke to, has made up an identity of you. Person you speak to in the shop, your friends, your colleagues, everyone makes up an identity. It doesn't match what you think yours is. So it's an ever-changing the identity. What I think who is me, someone, is ever-changing because it might constantly change throughout the decades. And so within that thing of that, yes, this is my vessel. This is what I live in. And my mind inside that chatter you talked about before, that's not me. That's just my mind chattering away like it does all the time. What is me is when I stop the mind chatter and just be aware. So I just being aware, and it's being aware. It did it before. I started reading it. It says, the chapter 3, so I don't want to ruin the book for anyone, but it won't, is to be aware that what the difference is being aware of awareness. Because as soon as you are in awareness, there's no mind chatter. Being awareness is just open your eyes, look around and be aware of everything there and take awareness in. There's no chatter. There's awareness is going on. You are, and it's saying that we are awareness. I haven't finished reading the book, but I'm liking that concept.
Yeah. I saw something yesterday, the concept of becoming nobody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, everybody wants to become something or be something, but it's quite the opposite of just be nobody.
Well, that's practically what we are, unless you sort of, because I'm doing a YouTube channel. People go, what are you doing it for? I didn't have a reason. Yeah. I'm doing it because one of the things I'm good at is maintaining good energy within myself. And I'd like other people to learn it. I'm not as good like your terminology is so good. It is. And I meet like my mate Wessel, who I had last week, their terminology is phenomenal as well. I haven't got that, but I've got my own little skills of about to go about it. So I'm like a connector of connecting different ways of doing it. So I'm just enjoying doing it. We know, I'm an entrepreneur in my other affairs, and I'm just doing it for no reason. So I'm like no, the people want, there has to be a reason for someone, doesn't it? Everyone seems to need a reason. It's most like the people you don't know very well need a reason.
As long as it's easy, then you're in flow. If it becomes something that becomes sticky and hard, then you know that there's something off with your alignment with it. So I get the sense from what you presented today with your energy with me, you definitely enjoy what you're doing, and you're a good interviewer. You're good at engaging.
That's very kind of you.
Yeah. And so that's something that you attract doing because it brings joy. And
I'll be honest with you. I wasn't having a bad day today, but I wasn't having a bad day. I wasn't having a great day. But what I knew is, like, the podcast, especially having this intimacy with someone, like I didn't know, and I don't like to speak to anyone before we do the podcast. So I didn't speak to you before. I want to do it now. I want to feel you now. You know what I mean? I don't want to go into it with a judgment of anything that's going to affect. Do you know what I mean? But every time I do one of these, I get a bit of a buzz. Like, and I knew it. Like today, I was thinking, like, I wasn't in, I was thinking I need to raise my energy. And I had a little walk out. Got shorts on today. We're thinking it was hot. It's absolutely freezing outside today. So I got but I came in, and during it, I don't know. And I don't know if I chose you. I don't know you. I've seen some snippets of you and thought, I like this guy. I like you're on your bike. You got positive. Some of the comments you put so much time and effort into giving someone you don't even know a little bit of a push. And I love stuff like that. Yeah. But I don't know how we're going to do it. But I don't know. You like the breath thing. I feel like everyone is the vibrational thing is, I'm finding a lot now. Like the podcast is bringing them in. Like you and mine, Katie's come up with ones. I've gone, wow. Katie brought me this guy called Preston Gouge, a young lad from America. Oh my God, the guy just made me feel he just sells cars. Not just, sorry. He sells cars and he does an amazing business, but he sells motivation in the buckets load. And all he just made me feel like I was glad to be alive and glad to be on the planet, you know. So
yeah. I'll have to go check out some of your other interviews too. I haven't seen any of them. So
right, okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely keen to look at what else you've done, because yeah, I mean, again, it's about the community and it's about sharing that energy. So it's great.
I've got loads of questions that I haven't asked you, but we're sort of like we're getting towards the end, so we might do it. I find a good interview, you don't do the questions that you wrote because it has its own natural flow.
Sure, of course, naturally.
So on a finishing note, if you were going to like, if anyone, I just think that I can tell that certain people in the group, maybe coming along to your coaching thing, it'd be what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So if I was one of them, what are you telling me?
Yeah, just, I mean, if you're really curious and exploring that, I'm happy to jump on a phone call. I'm not, it's not about a hard sell or anything. It's just, let's just see where you're at. And if there's some value there for you to be a part of that, great. We can explore that and see. But, to provide you with some of my time to share with you, I'm that's my role, is to just be in service. So you can send me a DM and I'll do my best to get back to you in the next 24, 48 hours and we'll go from there.
Amazing. And you know what? Ours has gone. I've just looked at the time and not like we've gone over quite a bit. So I've really, really enjoyed it, Adam. You've got a real good energy. I'm going to press end to the broadcast now. So it'll stop.
Awesome.
You stay on with me now. So
Will do. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you very much. Really enjoyed it, Adam.
Thanks for having me.